Yeah, I am the king of the E. Hey, get this bitch screwed like this.
All right, hey, welcome to Deep in the Heart of Tailgate. This is the University Star Tailgate show where me and my staff talk about Texas State athletics, and we do it in this grassy knoll area. So for starters, right, this is week 3 of Texas State football. We are playing the Georgia State Panthers, who last year we beat 40-31. However, it has been a little tough to be a Bobcat fan, even with the addition of head coach Jake Spavital. I'm gonna hand it over to my right-hand man, literally, Andrew Zimmel.
All right, so the problem that we've had so far in week 4, because not only did we play Texas A&M in a money game, then we went and we played Wyoming at Texas State in a game that we should have won. Then we go to SMU, get more money in a conference game or a non-conference game that was a peer opponent. And it was a game that I think a lot of us thought coming into it that it was going to be tough. You're playing against a guy in Shane Buechele who should be starting for the Texas Longhorns if it wasn't for Sam Ehlinger. If you should be starting for the Longhorns if it wasn't for Sam Ehlinger. Our defense looked good, I think, the entire game. I think all 3 of us can agree on that. The defense looked good the entire time.
They were just on the field way too long.
They were exhausted.
And that's where I think it comes down to it, was the SMU defense was able to hold Texas State back and wasn't letting them get more than 2 first downs in a row. And that, I think, is going to be the game changer going forward with this team, is that if the offense and Bob Stitt and Jake Spavital can figure out how to get 2 or 3 first downs in a row, I think the defense can be more well-rested as the game continues.
Yeah, so that was week 1, right, A&M. That kind of went exactly as we all expected. Week 2, Claire?
So week 2, we saw a little bit of a difference. I forgot who we played. I'm getting nervous.
Wyoming.
We played Wyoming. So we were expected to lose that one, but we did have a lot more hope going into it. It wasn't as bad of an underdog. It was a 7-point underdog, right? So we're going in thinking it would go well, and we lose by a little bit more than we had planned. So that wasn't really...
We had him in the first half, not gonna lie. But, you know, whatever. Things happen. Last week, the 3 of us, your hosts of Deep in the Heart of Tailgate, go to SMU. Beautiful campus.
Beautiful press box.
Southern Millionaires University. Beautiful press box. And nothing goes our way. Including, but not limited to, nearly everything on the field, I think.
You know, off the field, I think that we had a good time. But, I mean, honestly, besides the interview with Spavital in the stairwell, where we got the weirdest picture of Jake Spavital to go with the article that everybody loved, that game, I think, came down to, like we talked about, and this is going to be the theme, I think, for the rest of the show, is the trenches, where the offensive line kind of didn't show up for the game, and it hasn't been there the last 3 weeks either. So is that going to be something that's going to change going forward, do you think?
Well, I mean, in the SMU game, you know, Jensen was suffering sack after sack. He was getting beat up a lot. So going into Georgia State, I think we're not facing something quite as intense, you know, so the offensive line isn't going to be tested as hard, but I hope that he's been pushing and pressuring them into this Georgia State game so that we don't have that problem going forward.
And also, I mean, you guys were up in the press box, but I was on the field. And I was on the field last year too, taking pictures and stuff or whatever. But last year, it felt like the team gave up a lot quicker than it did.
Yeah.
This time, we were in the game the whole time. You know, we even scored late to make it even-er than it would have been.
With Vitt.
Even though SMU really didn't take off their foot off the pedal and then scored late anyway, so.
No, you mentioned something earlier about how the defense was kind of getting hit game after game after game with offenses that were running the ball. This week, Georgia State, their running game isn't, I don't think, nearly as prolific. I didn't think that this TJ McDaniels guy for SMU, this is his first collegiate game and runs for over 200 yards on us and 3 TDs. So that was kind of out of the blue. But we've played 3 offenses that were very good at running the football. Do you think that the defense is going to get a little bit more of a chance to get a breath this week because it's not going to be a team running the football down our throat?
I think it has to go with what you said initially. You know, we have to try and get at least 2 or 3 first downs per possession.
On the offensive side.
On the offensive side to break even and give Brian London and Nick Daniels and all the other guys a chance to get a breather.
Which is something I was going to kind of ask you, Claire. So Brian has been the staple of this defense every year he's played. What do you like so far from him this season?
Oh, he's doing what he always does. He's putting it down, even though they're on the field basically the whole game for every game we've witnessed. He's staying strong. He has the stamina for it, and I hope that the rest of the defense can catch up with that and also get a break from the offense and be able to perform as well as they can.
It's kind of he's just been the same guy for Texas State.
He's just consistent.
And that makes all the difference because when almost nothing looks the same, at least the defense does.
Yeah.
That's fair. So we want to shift over a little bit now and talk about the quarterback for Georgia State.
Yeah, let's talk about the quarterback, because they have a quarterback.
I said this during the Sunbelt Media Day earlier this year. We had Zach Thomas from Appalachian State. He's been anointed the best quarterback in the Sunbelt Conference for some reason. But I talked to Dan Etling, who is a quarterback for Georgia State Panthers, and he is the most confident, the most dynamic quarterback, I think, in this conference when it comes to being able to do things in the air and on the ground. This is, I think, the guy that Texas State all week has had to circle on the game film and said, we need to find a way to prevent this guy from beating us going forward. I don't love our chances of completely neutralizing him. I think that he is a game changer when it comes to playing quarterback in the Sunbelt Conference. I think that he's the best quarterback in the conference. Now, this Georgia State team, for those of you guys that don't know, they beat Tennessee, but then they end up losing by 30 points to 30 plus points to Western Michigan last week. So we don't really know the team that's coming into San Marcos this weekend.
Well, and also to carry on to that, just talking about the run defense for Texas State, right? Texas State has always had trouble with the run defense too. So you throw in a decent quarterback in the mix, it could get ugly really fast.
So with him being potentially the best quarterback in the conference, how is Georgia State still the underdog in this game?
So because Texas State hosts this game, the home team usually, for those of you that don't gamble at home, the home team usually gets 3 points. Like, that's just how it goes, right? They usually favor the home team. We're 3.5-point favorites, so it's kind of they're giving us that home favorite and then a little bit more. Again, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to come out here and say Texas State's going to blow the doors off Georgia State.
So you're telling me that the hype of Tailgate Central, which has been sold out twice for all general parking admissions or groups with 10 or more, is not enough? Is not enough of a home field advantage?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no, because still the Wyoming game is a small sample size and we can't base the rest of the season off this. And
even when we were up, we couldn't retain student participation.
Exactly, and that's exactly where we're going with this. The 12th man, quote unquote, I know we played A&M earlier this year, but honestly,
the 13th man.
The 13th man, I guess, for San Marcos. The X factor for the Bobcats every single game isn't, can Brian London stay on the field, can Gresh Jensen figure it out, can Spoutall finally get an offense going. It's, can the students stay in the seats? And I think that this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think that this has a lot of intrigue. If it's the first conference opener, so there's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of good stuff happening in this game. I think that there's a good chance that we hold the students in the seats this week.
Well, I mean, you go to Texas State, right? People get a little rowdy. Maybe they celebrate a little bit too much out there. If Texas State starts doing bad, do you want all the students out there?
Yes, 100%.
Yes. Rowdiness is best.
I would rather have the riot in the stands with the team not being able to do anything than have everybody at the square already.
The biggest test for Texas State is the walk from Tailgate to the stadium. Who's going to do it? And who's going to go home right after they get drunk and go party? That's what we got to face.
That's a good one.
That's what we got to face.
So no longer are we trying to win the tailgate.
I mean,
I think we're winning the tailgate every week.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing.
No, it's a win. It's just transferring it over.
Yeah,
that's the real thing.
It's carrying the fans from, one spot to the next.
Yeah.
At what point do you think they're just going to say, here, party in the stands before the game? Like,
honestly.
Because that, I think, is the next step if this Tailgate Central thing doesn't work.
Do you think more Mercedes are the answer?
No. I don't think.
So you're telling me the beer garden thing that the alumni is doing, the Bud Light tailgate tent, the fraternities getting the other spots and the green space and all that stuff, that's still not enough to keep students in?
Win games on the field, and that's gonna do it. Now, the last thing I kind of want to hit on with this offense is that Spavital has still not figured out to put the ball in the end zone. I know a lot of people are blaming the offensive line. I still think that a little bit of it goes on him for not figuring out a game plan to get the ball in the end zone. I want to kind of see what you guys had to think about that.
Well, you have two quarterbacks. Gresh wasn't Gresh.
Is a quarterback.
Yeah.
And he wasn't Gresh, as we know him at least.
No, he wasn't.
We all looked at him after the A&M game as like, oh, maybe Jacob's going to have to eat his words about this whole Vit Marcos thing. But that didn't end up happening on SMU. And Vit scored in a minute and a half.
So where do you
SMU.
stand with Vit Marcus now, Jacob?
Yeah, where's the Vit Marcus ranking?
I'm saying we have two quarterbacks. Let's use them. Brady McBride, where you at?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's
the
a
NCAA
good
still has,
question.
NCAA.
NCAA still hasn't said if he's going to have eligibility this year. I think that quarterback room really right now is Vit and Jensen and
Cedric Case.
I'm not willing to put him in that mix yet. Jalen Gibson's another guy.
Jalen Gibson.
Not willing to put him in. I really do think that it's a two-horse race, and that at this point right now, it's going to have to be Gresh until he puts us in a situation where we cannot win the game and you need to put Vitt in. He's the guy to go with.
Do you think it's a race, though, or do you think we're going to start utilizing more of a two-quarterback system?
I really hope we don't.
I really hope we don't, because historically that's what we did. And
that's what we did before. It never works. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, historically in NCAA and just college football, it hasn't been something that has worked for teams. It hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Being a team that has two quarterbacks and trying to
adjust
rotate
all the
them.
time.
In baseball, it works. You have a starter and a closer. In NCAA, you can't ask a guy, fourth quarter, here's the ball, go win me the game.
If Gresh got the opening reps at A&M, would it be any different on the other side?
So I don't think so. I don't think that the A&M half that Gresh didn't play, I don't think that is going to affect him.
Not half, more than half. Because they took Vitt out before the end of the second.
Yeah, okay. I don't think Jensen getting all the reps in that game, I don't think that hindered his progress. I am just curious now, because the reason that Vitt got the starting job, according to everybody, was that he had the leadership and he had the ability to win the starting job. But when it comes to ability, he hasn't done it, and Gresh still doesn't have the mechanics I think that we need to have to win a football game, right? Like, the mechanics just haven't been there. And granted, he's getting pressured a lot. But in this game, you mentioned the defense. In this game, if the offensive line can get some sort of pocket for him, I think that we should be good to go. Are you willing to give predictions right now before the game?
Well, we already did do predictions too for this game. Zimmer, what'd you say?
So I said I like Texas State in this game. I think that I've thought about it all week. I think that this is the first game Texas State wins on the schedule. They're 0-3 right now. I think they come out of this game 1-3.
I think they're 1-3 as well. My line depends on this, because if they lose, then Claire's still ahead of me and Zimmel. So
I don't know if y'all know this, but for a while I was 6-0, undefeated, no big deal, right? And now I'm 7-2, a little bumpy start, but I went for Texas State here too. I think we're gonna have a slim advantage. I think we've got it.
All right, there it is. Week 3.
Week 3.
Texas State football. So this has been Deep in the Heart of Tailgate, and we'll see you next time. See ya.